Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about customary units and the conversions. Now, the weird thing about this is that it's only really used in 3 countries, but the most important part is that it's used in our country. So we're going to have to be pretty good at it. So customary units is what the United, ooh, that's a little bit sloppy. Let me make it a little bit bigger and zoom it in. Customary conversion is what the United States, capitalize, it's what the United States uses. Now, what you probably notice is that this is day 53 in your math foldable. And just like always, we're going to go over the first 2 pages, and the last page you're going to work. Unfortunately, not with the people in your group because you know we're out because the water mishap, but you're going to be working it out independently, although you can reach out and check it with other people. Now, unfortunately, customary conversions can be kind of confusing, and there's going to be 4 different ways that we have to use our standard units. You have length, capacity, weight, and time. Now, the reason I put all these stars next to time is because time is one thing that's universal across all nations. So if you're talking about time in Greece or Africa or Australia or South Carolina, then time's going to be the same exact thing. Now, the other 3, length, capacity, and weight, is going to look different in different places. So if you're talking about what we use for length in South Carolina, it's going to be different than if you were to go to a completely different country. Like if you were to go to Great Britain or you're going to go to Italy, they're not going to use the same thing. Now, some of these you've probably heard of, some might be a little bit new, but length is the measurement of how long something is, how wide something is. Your smallest one is going to be called an inch. And over here, you're going to have all your abbreviations, meaning most of the time people aren't going to write it all the way out. They're going to write it for you in shorthand. So what I have circled in that pink is like your shorthand, how you're going to see it, especially in measurement with geometry. So you can measure something in inch, you can measure something in feet, you have yards, and you have miles. And what I hope that you're noticing, if you know any about these length measurements, you're noticing that you're starting from something small and you're working your way to bigger things. Same thing with capacity. You have fluid ounces, you have cups, you have pints, you have quarts, you have gallons, gallons being your biggest one. Then you have weight, you have ounces, you have pounds, and you have tons. Time is the one thing, like I said, is universal. Seconds, minutes, and hours. And then, of course, you have days and weeks and months and decades and years, which is a little bit less universal, but these things are all universal. Time, minutes, hours, seconds, all that good stuff. Now, what we're going to go into length today is the length. We're going to get into capacity, weight, and time in day 54 and day 55 of our math notebook, but we're just going to talk about how do we convert from inches to feet, feet to yards, yards to miles, miles to inches, and length. Time, like I said, is one of the few units that's pretty much the same across the board or across the world. So that's the one thing if you can't do anything else, length, capacity, and weight, you got to know time because that's going to be pretty standard no matter wherever you go. So we're going to talk about length and we're going to talk about time today. So here's some interesting factoids kind of around here. And most of y'all probably picked up on this, whether you've seen it on a clock or watched it on a video game or used it in timetables test. 60 seconds equals 1 minute, 60 minutes equals 1 hour, and 24 hours equals 1 day. What you have here is what you're going to see a lot of, which is my conversion flowcharts, where you're going to have to decide where you're starting and where you're going. And we're going to talk about that in greater length on the next page. So go ahead and flip with me to page 2. And we're going to talk about customary units with length. So let's zoom it in. So what makes customary units or conversions, need to probably make that smaller. What makes customary conversions so strange? Unfortunately, there's no standard number, meaning each time you do something, it's going to have a different number over here. It's not going to go up by the same amount or down by the same amount each time. If you're going from inches to feet, there's 12 inches to 1 foot. If you're going from feet to yards, there's 3 feet in 1 yard. If you're going from yards to miles, there's 1,760 yards in 1 mile. And if you're going from feet to mile, there's 5,280 feet in a mile. Notice your mile is going to be your largest, which means that your smallest is going to be inches. So whenever you're taking my kind of test, you're going to have this flow chart not memorized, but you're going to have it handy. Whenever you get to the end of your on-state test, you're going to have these memorized along with your other ones for time, weight, and capacity. So let's talk about how do we use this flow chart. So let's say somebody asks you a question on a test. They said, okay, I need you to tell me how many yards are in, if you have 3 yards, how many inches would that be? So this is how you use the flow chart. You say, okay, where am I starting? Yards. And where am I going? I'm going to inches. And that arrow is going to tell me which one of my little jumps I'm going to use. I'm either going to have I'll start it back. I'm either going to go with you don't have to draw this. I'm either going to go with, green arrows, which are telling me to multiply, or I'm going to go with my red arrows, which is telling me to divide. So let's get back to the question. Somebody walks up to you and says, or end of the year state test, they said, okay, I have 3 yards. How many inches is in that? Well, go from here to here. To go from yards to inches, I'm working my way to the right. So my green arrows are going to push me that way because they're jumping over this way. So that means I need to figure out, okay, I know I'm going from feet. I'm going from yards to feet. So how would I work that out? Because I got to go one step at a time. Well, in 3 yards, if I have 3 yards, there is 3 feet in 3 yards. There is 3 feet in 1 yard. So 3 times 3 is 9. So that's saying there's 9 feet in 3 yards, but I don't need to know how many feet there are. I need to know how many inches. And there is 12 inches in 1 foot. So I would do 9 times 12. And the way I found those numbers is that my 3 is what I started with. I worked my way over from yards to feet. That told me to multiply by 3, which you see here. And then once I got to the feet, I went from 3 times 3 is 9. And then I had the 9, and it told me, okay, to get from feet to inches, I need to multiply by 12. So what is 9 times 12? And if you know your timetables facts, you will know that 9 times 12 is 108 inches. So basically what we did was we broke it down. We said, okay, in 3 yards there is 9 feet. And in 9 feet, how many inches would that be? Well, there is 108 inches in 9 feet. So let's try another one. Let's go from 96 inches to feet. Which way am I going? Change up my color. I'll use yellow. I'm going from inches to feet. That's not very easy to see. Let me go to orange. I'm going from inches to feet. Now I'm not going to be able to use my green arrows because it's taking me in the wrong direction. I'm going to have to use my red arrows. So if I'm going from 96 inches and I'm trying to figure out how many feet that is, I'm going to have to divide my answer by 12 because there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So, set up my problem. 92 divided by 12 because there is 12 inches in 1 foot. So how many feet is that? If you know your multiplication facts, you know that, well, skip count by 12. What's the closest thing that you can get to? 96 into 12. That would go 8 times perfectly. So that means there is 8 feet and 96 inches. Now let me give you one of the trickier ones you're going to have. 74 inches to yards. Okay, well what's so bad about that, Mr. Silver? Well, change up my color. I want to use that kind of really dark purple. I'm going from inches to yards, so I'm going to have to follow my red arrows. Ooh, so what makes that hard? Well, if I'm going from inches to yards, I'm going to have to divide. Well, if there is 12 inches in 1 foot and there is 3 feet in 1 yard, that means I'm going to have to divide 74 by 36. And the reason that is because if there is 12 inches in 1 foot and there is 3 feet in 1 yard, that means there's 36 inches in 1 yard, so I have to divide it by that. And unfortunately, that's not going to work out perfectly. And you can't have decimals with customary units. So how many times does 36 go into 7? 0 times. Okay, so how many times does 36 go into 74? Twice. 2 times 36 is 72. 74 minus 72 is 2, so you have a remainder of 2. Like I said, this is going to be one of the few, skills or focuses where you're actually going to use remainders. Customary units will all use remainders. So that means that how many yards are in 74 inches? Well, there's exactly 2 yards, because that works out perfectly, and there is 2 just kind of leftover inches. Now, if you look on page 3, like I said, that one's going to be by yourself or with the people in your group. You have some, I'll put it in pink, you have some measurement ones, and then you have you have some time ones. So you're going to have to figure out, okay, how many minutes, if you have 4 minutes, how many seconds is that? How many minutes are in 4 hours? And then this one. So those are kind of like a little bit of a challenge. I want to see if you can do it. We're going to go over that in greater detail when we come back. But the rest of the stuff is going to be very straightforward on stuff that we've had in class that we have videos for. If you have a problem on any of this, I'm going to have a second video that goes along with it. And if you're still struggling, you can reach out to another student in your class, or you can reach out for me to help. Good luck, guys. Let me know how it goes. Once you're done with the video, like it so I know that you knocked it out. Thanks, guys.